Well, last fall, y'all enjoyed the video of me ripping the corn ground so much, I decided I was gonna do some more this spring. You ain't got a ripper, you say? Oh yeah, I do. We're gonna use this. Pulling out our old trusty single shank subsoiler. All right, Andy, while I'm spraying my burn down strips, I want you going around all the fields and running this subsoiler as deep as it'll go around the field edges, try and prune some of those tree roots that's robbing us of yield and everything. So
kill some of those water drinkers.
Yeah, there's really three things that really kill our yields in our summer crops. You know, the topography we got here in West Tennessee, a bunch of small patchy fields with usually tall tree lines surrounding the majority of the field. Those three things that kill our yield are deer pressure, which can't really do anything about, trees blocking the sunlight, which we can't really do anything about unless we clear cut everything, and then also the roots from those trees sucking out all the moisture from around the field edges. So two of those three things we really can't do anything about. We can try to do something about the roots, and that's what Andy's going to do with this subsoiler, pulling behind our 80 horsepower loader tractor. Just going to try and sink that thing down as deep as it'll go, close to the tree lines, and ripping up those roots that go out into the field. You know, hopefully get us a few extra bushels or pounds of cotton come fall.
May get lucky and find a gas line too.
No, we don't want to find any gas lines. We don't want to find any internet lines.
No special rainbow wires.
So if you see like any junction boxes sticking up out of the ground, go way around it. I don't want to piss nobody off from not having internet or blow a tractor up today.
Yeah.
I also wanted to show y'all these new seats that we got back here in the tractor. Man, they look good, so much better than those raggedy cloth seats. I am plumb tickled. Like I said, I wish some of this would be just a little bit tighter, whatever, but man, they look good and they feel nice. So if you ever need to get some seats reupholstered, I highly suggest go to an auto upholstery shop like we did and look at that marine grade vinyl. I'm really happy with it so far.
Well, we were doing good. Now you can see we're back at the shop. This here is supposed to be as straight as an arrow, and as you can tell, it is definitely not. So we're gonna see if we can't find an extra one of those. Dropped it down in the dirt and went about 15 feet forward, and I had already gone all the way around pretty much the whole field. I was coming up on another spot, picked it up and went around and dropped it down and went about 15 feet. The tire started digging just a little bit, and I was like, all right. And as soon as I got that second all right out, it popped something, and I could just see that bar bend down. Like it pulled it all down. And then I was like, oh man. So it started just dragging across the top of the ground, so that ain't gonna work. So I picked it back up, and when I picked it back up, having that bar bent, it didn't snap, but having that bar bent, it like pushed the top down when it picked it up, like this, kinda, like that right there. And this whole shank right here did a 180 flip, and of course it just hit these freshly rebuilt remotes here. You can't win for losing. But I did find our caps on the ground, but our housings here, they're toast. But we may be able to reuse the caps at least. I don't know. Well, it's probably a all together kind of assembly, but yeah. So I'm gonna see if I can't find another one of those top 3-point bars there. and get back to it. Alright, well, we ended up stealing the one off of this tractor. There's our old one right there. The 2 pieces. So yeah, this one's a little bit beefier. Maybe it doesn't give out to the loader tractor's power. It just has too much. But yeah, back to the field. Alright, well, we just stole the one off the other little T7 over here, so now we can get back running at least. Make sure we got picked up. And I had to use a different hole to put the pin through. So we'll just see if it's gonna work. It's a little bit beefier than the one that was on the loader tractor. Maybe it can withstand all these ponies up under the hood, and a total of 80 horsepower. I don't really know why it popped like that. It vented, like it was red hot or something. It was just shaking around. But yeah, we will just have to wait and see.
Alright, I said I wasn't going to give y'all any more videos with us bringing the burn down strips, but I've noticed a couple things wanted to show y'all. We're not quite done spraying our corn ground from last year. It's going into cotton, but I'm just kind of working my way through the county. So we got started on some double crop soybean ground that I'll be planting the corn this year. And this is cover crop that we had aerial seeded last year, and I'm really shocked by the way that it looks. I really wasn't expecting much out of it this year because we had such a dry fall last year. I just wasn't expecting much of it to germinate. We just had some light showers, enough to swell the seed, but really not get it to germinate, and I just figured the seed died. But I mean, you look out here, man, it's about as green as I've ever seen some aerial seeded cover crop. I'm really tickled. And if you look at it, it's definitely farther along than the cover crop that I drilled behind the corn ground, even though it germinated later. And a big reason for this, I believe, is there's a lot more nitrogen available. You know, we had a fantastic double crop soybean crop last year, produced a decent amount of soybean residue, and that soybean residue has a lot lower carbon to nitrogen ratio than what corn stalks do, so it naturally breaks down a lot quicker and releases the nitrogen a lot quicker. And that's what this cover crop is feeding off of, is the nitrogen that's being broke down from crop residue. Not only the wheat crop that we had last year, but also the soybean crop. And looking at this, if I didn't have any cover crop out here, all this nitrogen that the cover crop is picking up would be in the soil and would be susceptible to being lost primarily through leaching with rains that we get during the summer, just washing it down through the soil profile to where it's not available to plants. So I really don't know how many pounds of nitrogen per acre that this cover crop is taking up and storing that will then be released to the corn crop at some point this year, but it's definitely not an insignificant amount. Now, most of this out here is grasses. The legumes did okay. We've got some vetch that's definitely coming up, and by the time I plant, this will look a whole lot better. There's a little scattered clover through here, but it really doesn't look too good. But I pulled up some plants, and there are some nodules being formed on the roots. So we are getting extra nitrogen production from the legumes out here. But like I said, primarily what most all this is grass. And a lot of the grass you see is actually volunteer wheat from the wheat crop we had. There are some oats that survived. There is some cereal rye out here, but there's a whole lot of annual ryegrass out here. The annual ryegrass is really small seeded and doesn't take as much moisture to get it up and growing. So I'd say probably 65 to 70% of the grass out here is volunteer wheat and annual ryegrass. You know, the annual ryegrass we included in our blend, whereas the wheat is volunteer, and the rest of it is cereal rye and oats. So this amount of grass out here, these burned down strips are going to play an even bigger role this year in getting a successful corn crop, because right there in the row where we're planting, when we spray our burn down, it won't completely wipe out the cover crop, and these grasses can kind of compete with the corn coming up. But by going ahead and killing the grass in the strips where I'm going to be planting, there's not going to be the competition for the young corn coming up, and also it's going to help some of this organic matter start to decomposing and getting nitrogen back to the plant just a little bit quicker. So in past years, my tests have shown about a 1 to 2 bushel per acre increase by doing the burn down strips in corn. This year, it wouldn't surprise me if it's going to be a little bit higher than that.
Well, if we were doing one row corn planting, I'd be an all-star. But the ripper here, it seems to be working. As you can tell here, these are all tree roots and little tree straws. They sucking all the water out of everything else, the ground. But we do love the trees and everything. They put off great greens and animals out of them, but the roots can go somewhere else. So that's what we're doing. It's always a good sign when you have to stop and clean off your ripper though of tree roots. Big old trees, one, they're already bad enough to only give it a certain amount of daylight. Besides like the middle of the field's daylight all the time, they're shading it like in the mornings and afternoons. So the edges of the fields are already limited with the sunlight, so we don't want them to be limited with their water too. So yeah. So we're ripping up all the tree straws today, or as other words known as roots. As of right now, everything is going just as smoothly as possible. I'm in fourth gear, going 1.8 miles an hour right now. We are just trucking on along. She is a ripping. Yeah, see, I'm just going right here beside the tree lines here, and just a tractor width apart. And there's still roots way out here. I don't know if some of you may not know, but tree roots, they're not just straight down and like a couple around it. They go out just as long as the tree is. However tall the tree is about how long their root is. So Just a quick little fun fact. If you didn't know, you do now. My eyes are getting heavy and I cannot feel my hands. Mama always told me that I'd pay for all of my sins, but my sins have been so many, hell I thought he might forget. Now and then I've thought to reap what I have sown.
Also, I haven't mentioned it in a while, but I got to throw a plug out for our online store. Don't forget about the merchandise that we sell. If you want, you know, a hat, a hoodie, t-shirt, water bottle, coffee mug, all that kind of stuff, be sure to go to www.farmmerchbin, click on our link, see all of our gear. Not only will you be helping to support us, you'll be helping to support another small family-run business just about 45 minutes up the road. Also got gear from other YouTubers on there, Dylan Joyce Farms, Thomas Farms 10, Crop Critic. I think Chronicles of Kayla's going to have something on there at some point. So if you're looking for that gift for someone special, or you just want something for yourself, be sure to go to farmmerchbin.com, help yourself out. We'd really appreciate any kind of support you can give us.
These big old trees, they are thirsty, and they are always thirsty. So they do take a lot of the water from the crops. So these cutting the roots will hopefully help with that. And we don't know for sure this is going to help, but I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. Especially, I'm just driving in the cover crop fields, which is going to be cotton and corn and beans this year. But since our wheat is already planted, so maybe if it does work, we can go back over, when we cut the wheat, we can go back over those fields if we notice any kind of differences at all. But if not, we'll just mark it as a waste of time and not do it again. You live and you learn. But all right, we just made it to our next field, and I believe we're on the same field. Actually, yeah, I see him back there now. We're on the same field as Matt, so he's out here spraying his burn down strips, and we're going to be working in the same field for a little while, which I believe he's on that back farm right now, so we may not even cross paths, but and you can kind of see how far it's dropping down in there, one just on the video, and two kind of up in here. This is mainly where it's all rubbing off at, so I don't know how far that is. I didn't bring a tape measure, but I'd say it's at least about a foot and a half, maybe like right at 18 inches, 17 inches, somewhere in that area. So, I mean, and it's definitely popping up some pretty good sized roots. So, it's doing good. One or two less roots than we had. But this is the kind of the furrow that it's leaving. Not necessarily furrow, but it's not too terrible. In some spots where it's got big old clumps that I know he's about to take the planter across, I like to come back either with just the tractor tire or the bucket and kind of smooth it out a little bit. That's like when I dump out big clumps, and when it gets all clogged up, I'll just pick it up and try and remember the best I can that on that spot. I'll just come back and smooth it up, because even though we're trying to make our field edges better, it sure is not going to make it any better if the planter gets stopped up on the field edge where we have to wait 3 hours to unclog a wheel. So it's always nicer to have smooth fields anyways. But anyway, I'm gonna eat my lunch and get back to it. And I may get some smoke from this one, but my wrapper melted off, but I got some nice hot lunch in the middle of nowhere field. Today's lunch is creamy chicken bacon carbonara in a can. Nicely warmed up from the 215 here. I mean, I said 215. From the little loader tractor area. So this spot right here, I'm sure some of y'all already know what we're talking about by the trees take a lot of the water from the plants, but right in here you can really tell. I mean, we can pretty much plant right up against, well, maybe not right up against the trees, but pretty close to these trees. And you can see that the dirt, where the dirt is how far necessarily those trees are taking the water from them. So, I mean, that's a pretty good picture on what kind of I'm talking about. You can see the stuff right over here that's getting sunlight and plenty of water, sunlight through the day and plenty of water. I mean, it's flourishing. This stuff that's lacking sunlight in the mornings and afternoons and is probably pretty thirsty, it's not doing so hot. So maybe we see some improvements, maybe not. We just have to see.
Well, guys, as we finish out this week in this video here on Saturday, spraying the burn down strips, there's something I felt like I need to share with y'all. You know, I've made no secret in the past that I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I believe Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior and died on the cross for me so that I may go to heaven. And I don't think any of us will argue that the world is getting a worse place. We see evil just perpetuating through society worse than we ever have before. I firmly believe that it is the work of a spiritual being, Satan. And you know, we've seen that. Really not a lot we can do on world events except control our part. But here very recently, Satan's work has really hit close to home for me. And I know probably a lot of y'all don't want to hear this message or whatever, and you know, that's fine. Everybody's got a right to believe what they want to believe. But if this message if it can hit home with just one person and help that one person out, it will all be worth it. You know, I've been seeing Satan work in the world for a good long time now, but, you know, really never thought I could do much about it because, you know, he's working in other people. You know, my world, my life has been great, but here recently, Satan has been attacking people very, very close to home to me, and it's really scared me about what his capabilities are. If you'd given me 10 million different scenarios to choose from, what has recently happened, I'm not going to dive into what happened, but what has recently happened would have been the very last thing that I would have picked. I would have practically thought it impossible. But anyway, I've seen Satan get his claws into the people involved, and he starts out real slow, you know, feeding you small lies that might seem like truths. You know, some of his most popular lies are, follow your heart. Your happiness matters. Stuff like that. And while you go down that path, it can seem like happiness initially, it's only going to lead long-term to misery, and not only for yourself, for the other people around you. But that's how he gets this. He starts working with us just very slowly, getting you to rationalize, small things away. Oh, it's okay to use that language. Oh, it's okay to watch this movie, listen to this music, that kind of stuff. It's not really going to affect you. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to hurt anybody, or it's not going to hurt anybody because they're not going to find out. Just little things like that, just getting you to stray away from God's message, God's purpose for you, and to start going down a path that God does not want you to go down. And then before you know it, you're strayed far away from the Lord. You're going down a bad path. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting other people around you. You find yourself in a situation where you think that you might never be able to recover from. But I'm here to tell you today to be careful of that. Be mindful of that. This event that I'm talking about, it's really opened my eyes. I've always been a Christian. I always will be a Christian. My faith is unshakable. But my relationship with the Lord is not what it should be. And, most everybody that's a Christian, kind of, moves back and forth in their relationship with the Lord. When things are good, like things were good for us last year, you kind of start beating your own chest like I did good last year, and not really giving credit where credit is due, that it's only that your success is only due to the Lord. And then if you're like me, you really only turn to the Lord, really pray very intently, whenever you really need Him, when bad things are happening to you. But otherwise, if things are going well, you just don't think about it because you don't have that relationship, because other things have infiltrated your life that have taken your attention away from the Lord. And that's happened to me, but this event's really opened my eyes that to really pursue that relationship with the Lord, have close daily, hourly, minutely connection with Him, talk with Him, ask for His help, ask for His guidance, and praising Him for your blessings. So anyway, guys, I hope that helps somebody. And if you can do one thing for me, I would appreciate you lifting the people that I'm talking about, lifting them up in prayer right now, because they need God's help. They are struggling right now. They are struggling hard, and I'm literally scared to death of what Satan is capable of. He's a very powerful being. He's not as powerful as our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but he does have the power to corrupt tremendously. And if it can happen to these people, it could happen to me. It could happen to my wife. It could happen to my children. It could happen to just about anybody. So be mindful of how Satan's working in your life. Be mindful of these little things that he starts out with, pulling you to do things that are not appropriate. It's never, ever too late to do the right thing. Ever too late to do the right thing. No matter how much bad you've done, no matter how many people you have hurt, it's never too late to stop, turn around, and do the right thing. And just like my dad told me once, when you're faced with a decision, he told me that 99% of the time, the most difficult thing for you to do will be the right decision. Because doing right is hard most of the time. Doing wrong, doing evil, most of the time it's the easiest path. But if there's one thing you remember, Satan starts off with small lies, and his biggest lie is follow your heart. And one of my pastors, I remember this in a message that really hit hard to me. The pastor said, I think he was talking about infidelity. He said, God's not concerned with your happiness. He's concerned with your holiness. And while I don't necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly, I do think God cares if you're happy. But holiness does not always equate to happiness. Holiness means standing up for difficult things, doing the right thing when it's difficult, which can lead to stress, it can lead to frustration, but ultimately in the end it will lead to the ultimate happiness, and that we get to spend eternity with the Lord. Hello? You mean the ball hitch pulled out of the truck? Alright guys, sorry for the interruption, but that's just a little preview what the next video is going to be about. Kelly's headed to South Dakota to pick up our new bin sweep, and she just had a pretty serious mishap, but I'll show you all about what happened in the next video. I think she had her GoPro going, so should be plenty of footage of it. But anyway guys, where was I at? Just yeah, just please be mindful. Satan's greatest desire is to steer you down the wrong path, take you away from the Lord, and ensure that you spend eternity in hell. Please be mindful of how he's working in you, your loved ones, others around you. Be strong, resist the temptations, because you will be attacked. So, anyway guys, that's all I got. Thanks for watching.